The night was quiet, but inside the dark forest on the outskirts of Benin City, something evil was happening. A small shrine stood in the middle of the trees, lit by red and black candles. The air smelled of blood and palm oil. A low drumbeat echoed in the background as Baba Orogun, a powerful ritualist, walked around a wooden coffin placed at the center of the shrine. Inside the coffin lay Ozan, a 27-year-old Yahoo boy. He had heard about a powerful ritual that could make him rich overnight. But the price was high. 7 days inside a coffin. 7 days of darkness. 7 days with the spirits of the dead. Ozan had once been an ordinary boy struggling in the streets of Benin, but he had tasted the fast life. He had seen his friends buy Mercedes-Benz cars, travel to Dubai, and spend millions on expensive drinks. He wanted that life. He needed it. And now, he was ready to do anything to get it. Baba Orogun's voice was deep and strong. If you come out before 7 days, your soul belongs to them. He pointed at the dark corners of the shrine, where shadows moved without a clear shape. But if you survive, money will follow you. Ozan's heart pounded. His friends, Ovi and Olamide, stood outside, watching with fear and respect. They had heard about this ritual but were too scared to try it. The priest handed Ozan a small calabash filled with black liquid. "Drink," he commanded. Ozan hesitated, then brought the calabash to his lips. The liquid was bitter and burned his throat. His vision blurred, his legs became weak, and the last thing he saw was the coffin lid closing over him. Ozan woke up in total darkness. He tried to move, but the coffin was too tight. He could barely breathe. At first, he heard nothing but the sound of his own heartbeat. Then the whispers started. At first, they were soft, like the wind blowing through trees. Then they became louder, echoing inside the coffin. "Ozan. Ozan, are you ready?" His throat was dry. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. Then something cold touched his leg. He flinched, but there was nowhere to run. A deep voice spoke inside his head. "You want money, but you fear the dead. Only those who embrace death can be rich." Ozan was shaking, but he forced himself to be strong. "I will not fail." The hunger started as a small pain in his stomach but soon became unbearable. His mouth was dry, and his lips cracked. He thought of the food he used to eat in expensive restaurants, the girls who surrounded him, the bottles of Ozul and Hennessy he used to drink. But now, he was nothing more than a man trapped in a box, surrounded by ghosts. The whispers continued. "Give us your mind, and we will give you wealth." Ozan shook his head violently. "No." The spirits laughed. "You think you have a choice?" Ozan heard footsteps. Impossible. He was 6 feet underground. Yet, he was not alone. A cold hand brushed against his face. Then another. Then another. Hands of the dead. His breath came in short gasps. He had heard stories of men who did this ritual and came out insane. He wouldn't be one of them. Then he heard a woman's voice, soft and sweet. "Ozan, do you remember me?" His eyes widened in the darkness. He knew that voice. It was Ozato, his ex-girlfriend who had died 2 years ago. She had begged him to stop scamming people. She had warned him about rituals. But he had laughed at her. Now, she was here. I'm sorry," he whispered. Cold fingers touched his cheek. "You will be." By the 4th day, Ozan was losing his mind. His body felt weak. His thoughts were no longer clear. Then Baba Orogun's voice filled his head. "You must choose, Ozan. Money or death." Tears rolled down his face. "Money," he croaked. "Give me money." The spirits laughed. "Then give us something in return." Ozan swallowed hard. "What do you want?" The answer came quickly. "Blood." His breath hitched. "Whose blood?" The whispers grew stronger. "The one who trusts you the most." His heart sank. He knew who they meant. Ovi. His best friend. The one who had always stood by him. Could he do it? The spirits showed him a vision. Ovi, laughing, drinking at a club, completely unaware of the danger. Ozan wept. "Forgive me," he whispered. But the spirits didn't care about forgiveness. By now, Ozan was no longer human. His skin felt different. His thoughts were filled with secrets of money. He no longer feared the spirits. They whispered how to make people send millions to his account. They told him what to say, what to do. He was no longer a Yahoo boy. He was something greater. The coffin lid burst open. Ozan gasped as fresh air hit his face. He was back in the shrine. Barber Orogun and his men surrounded him, staring at him with respect and fear. His skin glowed. His eyes were different. He had changed. Ovi and Olamide ran to him. "You did it," Ovi shouted, hugging him. Ozan smiled. A sad, knowing smile. That night, he invited Ovi to a celebration at a private location. By morning, Ovi was dead. His body was found drained of blood. And Ozan? His bank account had received a mysterious deposit of $5 million. He was now untouchable. He had paid the price. Please stay tuned for part 2.